Good morning, everyone. This is Bruno with Wiiisdom, live from the awesome city of Boston. First of all, thanks all for joining today. Today, we're going to exchange with Videotron about how they have been handling their UNV to UNX conversion, repointing testing project, and then also about how they're going to go to Snowflake. Today, I've got two great persons with me. I've got first person, I've got Gassan. Gassan, you want to say a couple words?
Yeah, hi. Nice to join this webinar and be a part of it.
Thanks a lot for joining, Gassan. And then I've got the awesome JF Caron.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here.
Thanks a lot, JF. So as always, this event is recorded, and please feel free to submit your questions at any time. The recording will be shared as well, I think within a couple days, once we've put everything together, and it'll be made available on YouTube. Additionally, before we start, we've recently published a survey that we'd appreciate everyone to take, which is about the state of analytics governance. So please take a scan, take a picture of this QR code, and then just take a couple minutes to answer to the survey. Of course, this survey will be shared to everyone once it's completed. Gassan, so tell me about yourself. So, when have you started at Videotron?
Beginning 2016. So probably this is my seven years at Videotron. Before I was for 15 years plus at Canadian National. I'm a system architect for the BI platforms, which include the video business objects, SAS and Tableau. So been doing this the business objects for 18 plus years, Tableau for the last 7 years. It's also SAS.
Okay, thank you very much. Tell us about Videotron. So, I know it's a large telco. What can you tell us at a high level about Videotron?
It's like where we do in telecom and then interactive media and telephony, home telephony and mobile telephony. And then we recently bought Wiiisdom, and then we're integrating the two companies together. And the subsidiaries who have Videotron business we offer telecom services for the small and medium and big enterprises. We have Fibre Noire, which specializes in connecting the enterprises with fiber optic. We provide the fiber optic connectivity to enterprises. Fizz is our self-service, mobile and residential internet, which opened in Quebec, and then it's going to be opening in Ontario. And Club Illico is our video on demand service, and then it's similar to Netflix and all the other streaming shops. And the goodest thing about Illico, it develops its own French-speaking series and documentaries and stuff. So.
Thank you. And then, hey, Gassan, as well, I love the picture behind you. Is that Pink Floyd?
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
I'm a big fan as well. So,
who's not?
Picture outside of the logo behind, but that works out. Yeah. So, but I think he's also a big fan of Pink Floyd, if I recall. So that is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it tells an age somehow, and sometimes you don't want to go there because people can tell the age. So
I mean, this album was just
introduced
just a few years ago, so that's
fine. Yeah.
So Gassan, tell us, how do you guys use BobJ at Videotron? What is, at a very high level, how is BobJ used?
I joined Videotron as a platform administrator, and then It was being used for in Videotron since probably 2006, 2007. I'm finding comments on the universes window migration, and I have people who lay their own comments on the changes, and I see 2005, 2006. So we have a big platform. We're still using it, and we plan to continue using it. As the slide says, we have 30,000 plus documents, almost 90 universes, and we're still like probably most everybody at 4.2. In our case, we had to move to Service Pack 8 because we were preparing to move our backend to Snowflake, and the Service Pack 8 it was a requirement. So we have to have an upgrade from 4.2 SP6 to SP8 Service Pack 8 because of the Snowflake connectivity, which was a mandatory thing for our backend. Okay. So now we have an objective while we'll move in to Snowflake, and then we have up until the end of the year to finalize the move from DB2, IIS, Netezza, whatever, to Snowflake. And while moving the backend, we took the opportunity to convert whatever UNV universes we had, convert them to UNX, and then repoint everything to UNX universes. And at some point, we're going to upgrade from 2.6 to 4.3 at some point.
Yeah, at some time. So overall, you really had like 3 projects. One was going from UNV to UNX. The other one was to go to Snowflake, from DB2 to Snowflake, and then of course the 4.2 to 4.3. And then I recall exchanging with you about a year ago and just saying, hey, Bruno, I've got this project to do, but it's really painful. In particular, the UNV to UNX, it's really time consuming. And then I recall talking with you and talking with the management and just saying, you know what, we've got a limited budget, which, you know, to be frank with you, it's something that we hear all the time. And I need to get some tools. I need to get things moving for this project, and then also to be more efficient. And then one thing also that struck me at the time is you said, you know what, I will have a limited support from the business users, and they don't like testing. Is that fair?
Who likes it? Yeah,
who likes
the thing, yes, we are limited in manpower. It's an occasional thing, but we just happen to be we fell into a period where we have a limited budget for almost all of the departments, and the manpower is also minimum, not only on our department and on the business we serve also. So yeah, we couldn't afford to tell. We couldn't. One of the things we needed to make sure that we do this test with minimum involvement from the business, because otherwise we will never be on target for the delivery. So we decided we did try the automation framework, which comes with BO, just to once again prove that it was useless and it was painful, and it's just we couldn't make it. So until the budget was approved, we still had the chance to validate with the trial version you guys sent us, which we appreciate, and then we were able to have a clear view of this is the tool we needed, and we ended up buying the tool, and then we're using it, and then everything is working smoothly.
Hey JF, so when is the end of life of UNVs, and for how long has this been going on? Because I've been hearing that for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, well, let's start in history. I mean, the UNXs were introduced more than a decade ago, and it was clear from the get-go that they were the way of the future, and that the UNVs were going to go the way of the dodo instead. And they will be phased out completely when 2025, BI 2025, the next version of business objects will appear. There will be no UNV supported there. And it's interesting because UNXs have quickly, overtaken the UNVs. They have a lot more features. They're easier to work with for the developers. Many things that are simply not available in UNVs, and all the new products that were released by SAP and Business Objects we're working only with UNX. So you wonder, why do we have still so many UNVs around? Why isn't everybody on UNX already, right? And well, the real issue is that you do not just magically convert them and everything's fine. You have to take care of all your existing documents, and that's a huge enterprise. That's a huge job, and not everybody's ready to make that project arrive. So long intensive process, and you have the issue of testing. Once you've done the switch, how can you be sure that everything's still working? So but now the wall is approaching fast, and we have to do something before we hit it.
And one thing, like, I know we've done we support hundreds of UNV to UNX projects and probably thousands of migrations over the years. And talking with customers, like we have a lot of customers right now that are telling us, hey, Bruno, we need to go to UNX and we need to do this quickly. And then each time I have this conversation, as I had with Gassan, in fact, is, hey, we've all known that for years. Why are you doing this now? And really, the answer I always get is, you know what? We're always so busy because we're getting less and less resources. Like years ago, we had more resources, and then over time, people want to cut costs, etc. So you have to do more with less resources. So overall, this is what I've been hearing from a lot of deployments, a lot of customers, that the main reason that things have been delayed is really because people are really busy, and there's always something that comes up. So it's always there are a lot of challenges into that. And then I think also another reason is in the past the conversion process, or at least the conversion rate, was not as good as what it is today, I think. So there were a lot of improvements actually since 4.2, I think SP4, if I recall. And then in terms of the first part, that is manual. So overall, like in the case of Videotron, if I recall, definitely would have taken probably something like 3 years if you put all the repointing and all the testing. So Gassan, what can you tell us about your experience in doing this manually?
We tried doing it with the automation framework. It has its own issues and it has its own limits. And just for a couple of reports, we tried with a few universes which were connected to few reports, and the process, it will take a long and painful process, and we didn't have especially we didn't have the tool to do the comparison. I mean, you can tell it, okay, I move from this universe ID, the other universe ID, but when it comes to validating how did the move go, is it working? And even when it's working, am I gonna have the same results? And the painful part was making sure that the results are the same. We had to rely on Beyond Compare on some of those file comparison tools, which is this was taken the most of the time. So when we validated your tool, I noticed that you just have to plan. You prepare your set in development connected to production, and then you have the original copy in production connected. All we had to do is run in dev, run an extract in prod, and your tool, the 360 suite tools, is gonna generate an extract, gonna do the comparison. I believe it's an XML comparison, so it's a pixel per pixel. So the only thing we have to wait for is the execution of the report. So sometimes some of the reports might take 10 minutes to execute because they're doing a lot in the back end. But again, when it comes to comparison, you just select my development set with my development extract with my development the production extract, and the comparison is instantly, and then you see the differences. And unless otherwise we're gonna have to look for missing tabs, added tabs, and that's the visual, the manual comparison it was just painful. So thankfully we have the tool now to accelerate the test, the generation of the extracts and the comparison.
And Ghassan, I recall when we were talking about the automation framework, because I remember at first, as you said, I don't really have the budget, and then I'll try to use the automation framework first. And then I recall telling you know what, good luck, and we'll talk later. One thing that you had mentioned is when you had tried it outside, that was, I think, very long, so there was not really any time saving. I think one thing that struck me is like you were saying that when you tried it, the ratio never exceeded like 20%. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So we most of the times we never got past this ratio, and then and to get to this result, it was also time consuming. So and the conversion and the remapping of the objects in the universe from the old in the reports from the old universe and the new universe, just out of the box from SAP, it wasn't just working. Just for simple reports, yes, it seemed to be working, but as soon as you add a little complexity to the universe and to the reports, forget it. The ratio was just not acceptable. And so we tried it, and we hit the wall with the automation framework. So we had to rely on a tool like 360.
And I recall, so one of the issues outside of the testing, and that was taking a lot of time, I think one of the other issues was the backup, because whenever there was an issue, essentially there was no way really to roll back to
exactly. So yeah, the thing is, for us to be confident in what we're doing, we had to make sure that we have a backup we can depend on, because we have some universes that are going to be connecting. We have some universes that connect to 1,500 reports. So you once you start doing the repointing and migration in the same time, you need to make sure whatever is in prod is going to still work. So we do have luckily we do have the option to, if any user reports an issue with the migrated report, we still rely on the 360 Plus tool, which generates a backup of the platform. So for us, it's just a matter of navigating to the folder where the document resides, and we right-click and select the most where we have the option to keep always 3 backups of the object. So and we have to, in the case of the migration, we just have to restore the most recent backup. And this is automated after hours. We run it against the platform, so we have all the changes made in the day backed up, and we have a newer version of the instance. So I have the most recent, the one before, and the one before that.
Got it. And then one thing that's critical in the backup that 360 Suite offers as well is it's incremental and it goes at the object level. So it's not like a big BR file that you're restoring. You can selectively restore any object.
Exactly. This is it, because you don't want to you want to be selective when you're restoring. You don't want to restore the whole platform. And this is the nice thing about it.
JF, in terms of the manual process, can you describe typically what a manual process is in BobJ?
Yes, very simply. So the conversion, and it may be a misnomer, because when you convert a universe, actually what you do is create a new universe next to it. So you have to modify all your reports to use the new universe, the UNX in our case. And basically what you have to do is one by one open a Webby document, go to the data section of it, and switch, change source for the universe. Then you have to save it, and then comes, of course, the last step, which is probably even the most time consuming. Well, not maybe, certainly. Which is the testing, and then you have to find a way, to compare the before and after. All in all, extremely manual process, a lot of clicks, and the reliability of the testing. I mean, it's, any human task is, well, it is what it is. We're not perfect. It's been repeated over and over again.
By the way, I just want to know, because I got a question there, is can everybody see my screen or not? You can see my screen, so okay, good, because we got a question from Nicholas, are we meant to be able to see the speakers or just a slide? So I'm wondering if we can see, if we're shown actually on the webinar with the screen or not. So if somebody can put a comment, just to tell us what they see, because I've got a different view. So okay, so just a slide. So hold on, let me see if I can actually, we're live, so let me see if I can actually show, if people can actually see us. Just hold on. View everyone. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so hold on. We got another well, okay, so Nicholas, I guess, you're, just the slides, and then I see also John says, actually, I can see slides and speakers. So, okay, we'll just go on with that. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so that's about the manual testing part. And then we talked about the automation framework, that also you've tried Gassan. And then in terms of over the years, because we support so many migrations, what we did is we put together like a process in 6-step, essentially to go from UNV to UNX. And we won't go in the details, and the details actually of each step is going to be mentioned on a slide at the end of this presentation. And we've done previous webinars with JF about the entire process. But overall, it consists of 6 steps. Of course, number 1, backup. Number 2, you need to do an assessment of what you have, what you want to convert. Number 3, it's always a good thing to clean up, to archive the content that has not been used, because it's going to reduce the amount of work that you need to do in the entire process. Number 4 is, in fact, to convert your UNVs to UNX. Number 5 is about the repointing, because of course, as Jeff was saying, is whenever you convert your universes, unfortunately, they don't magically repoint to the new destination. And of course, number 6, you need to validate, you need to do the testing. In terms of Wiiisdom 360 suite, so JF, are there any specific points you would like to insist when we go into it, or at a high level?
Well, high level. Okay, high level. We automate the whole process, right? The universe to UNX conversion. It's actually a fairly simple and fast process using the IDT. But if you have a lot of universes, we have the bulk conversion, so you just do it magically in the background. But more importantly, the repointing, right? I mean, it takes several minutes to repoint one document. If you have thousands of documents, you do the math, we're talking about months or years of manual labor to do that. So we can, again, do all that in bulk, and Gassan will certainly share his experience with that. And the main thing is the testing, right? I mean, first of all, human testing is unreliable, plus it's extremely time consuming. We have the solution to basically automate that and just show any discrepancies that you may have in the process. So the time saving is astronomical, as you can imagine.
I think, Gassan, in terms of time saving is when we had discussed, I think you had estimated it would take you probably a couple of years if you were to do things manually, if I recall. Is that correct?
Yeah, maybe for trying it, it's for having a lot of a big platform with too many universes and too many documents. Yeah, the conversion it's really it's not feasible like this without a proper tool to automate most of the processes. So in our case, with the audit tool, what we do is we run a report to get a list of what are the documents that are used by the universe. So now we have, and then we export this to an Excel spreadsheet. So we have the list of documents with the proper QIDs and IDs that connect to the universe. And then we feed this spreadsheet to the process that does the repointing. So once we have the new universe ready and the old universe, you just have to tell to launch the process, this is the old universe ID, this is the new universe ID, and this is the spreadsheet I'm feeding you to do the repointing. And it takes in a matter of less than a minute, 2 minutes max, depending on how much of the reports are you feeding it. In less than 2 minutes, you have all the documents repointed. And those who have issues repointing, like the ones that have custom SQL or some, not 100, not all the reports are very, very rare, but sometimes the report just don't automate. And we notice it's when we have a lot of custom SQL, they don't repoint automatically. So we have to find a way to fix it manually, or have a trick to flip it to a non-manual, non-custom SQL repointed, and then copy paste the custom SQL. So this worked for us. So before for the reports with custom SQL, save the custom SQL, reset the custom method to non-custom, do the repointing, and then go to the data source and put back the custom SQL. So this fixed the issues for us. But in our cases, it's less than 0.5% of the documents we have. So this is, it's not an issue.
You're right, but still that is important because you still need to do that manually. But thanks for bringing up, the custom SQL, because it's something that we don't convert with 360. It's something where in general, like you, Gassan, or customers in general, is what they first do is they just look, okay, have they been used or not? And then if they haven't been used in the past 13 months, and the good practice is just to isolate them, just to put that pain on the side, and then to involve your business into it, because it's this is going to be something very, very painful. So you need to get some support.
Yeah, well, actually, before, you remember I said we generate an extract file for, but before feeding it to the process, we send the users the list of documents per user. So they ask them to do a cleanup, and then we update the generated XML. We update the XML and then we feed it. So between feeding it, we go over with the business to make sure, especially if I had like a 200 reports and I notice sometimes the folder is old or archived. So I make sure whatever I'm feeding to the repointing process is whatever is going to is still being used by the platform.
Gassan, also, I recall when actually we did that assessment with 360 with you, and then with Jeff, where we extracted all the reports, how many documents you have to repoint, the usage, the non-usage, the custom SQLs, etc. So we did that 3D assessment, and you had actually quite a few things that were very specific, which is very common in Vide here, which were very specific to your deployment. So I recall we actually tried to different strategies. So Jeff, can you go through the different repoint strategies and then exchange with Gassan about why he selected specifically that,
Yes.
one particular strategy.
Certainly, and the strategy you choose will depend on your particular configuration. Excuse me. So multiple approaches. You can choose, one area of the business, one department, and do a complete repointing of all the universes in all the documents there. Or you can focus on one universe system-wide, or focus on a specific department. So again, it really depends on how you see your business, how you can organize your project, and all that. The bottom line is that depending, no matter what strategy you use, you can configure 360 Suite to support it. So it's very flexible. Gassan, what's your take on that?
Yeah, what's in our case, because the migration to Snowflake, it's whatever's drove the strategy. So in our case, we went by one universe, we connected to Snowflake, and then since we don't have specific departments using specific universes, so in our case, the strategy was one universe at a time, system-wide. So as soon as we make sure that all the tables used by the universe are properly created and fed with the proper data, that we cut the DB2 connection, we activate the Snowflake connection. So as soon as the tables used by a universe are all in Snowflake, we flag this universe to be migrated, and the documents connecting to this universe to be repointed to the new one. So in our case, it was, if it's a UNV, we first converted to UNX, and then we we connected to Snowflake. And if it's already a UNX, we just change the connection and do the repointing. We just do the connection. We don't have to do repointing. They're already connected to a UNX. But we do the test to see if DB2 data and Snowflake data at the same point in time are returning the same rows.
So that was one thing that was very important in your strategy to determine, okay, what was the right repointing. I recall as well, then there was another element there, which was about the testing strategies. So, what
testing
have you
strategy? Yeah. In our case, we do have for one of the universes 1,500 documents. For another one that's not going to be migrated now, but we said 25 to 3,000 reports. So for sure we cannot test all of the documents. So for us, what matters is we check whatever reports are scheduled and publishing information. These we make sure we test them, because these are delivering information to other departments. But again, we have to validate sometimes. With the report owners, we ask them, okay, we're in the process of the migration, and then give me the list of your most important documents. We want to make sure that when we do the migration, you're not going to be losing any time trying to figure out issues, new stuff coming up, and then we cannot ask the business to stop their work especially when they're relying on the results of the report. So we check what's planned. We check we ask the business to give us the list of critical reports, on which we make sure we test those ones. And then from our knowledge of the platforms, we always prepare a set of reports to test. We make sure from previous migrations, we have a list of reports that were problematic. So we always have them in our list of reports to test.
Got it.
So we prepare a set of reports to test, and we run the process, the testing process, the export and comparison against those reports.
And it's always critical to make sure it's all accurate, not to lose the trust for the business, because overall, if something's wrong, they'll just say, hey, Gassan, you know, or IT team, like, you've got a problem. We don't want to use whatever whatever's coming out. So that's always an issue. And would you say it's a fair statement that overall, you know, with the entire process, that you've saved about 95% of time?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. Before we started just trying it on a set of 45 to 50 reports, we spent a week trying to figure out what's going on. And like I said, 80% of the time was comparing seeing a discrepancy between two text outputs, but not being able to tell where exactly is the discrepancy. So yeah, especially the comparison tool, it's a lifesaver for us.
And so overall, that was something that we had worked on initially together. You know, we're about 30,000 objects with the isolating all the content hasn't been used, and that's only one of the projects. So this is like the type of ROI that we would calculate on a project that we had done actually together, I guess, on that. So it's like it's a huge ROI. Like, you know, we always say it's over 500%, but here it's pretty obvious it's actually way more than that. But we try to be conservative and not misleading anyone on that. And then, do you have some other comments in terms of ROI, Gassan?
No, I guess the numbers speak for themselves. And then again, just to clarify, there's myself and a colleague working on this project, and because the manpower is at its minimum, so we're not only doing this, and then we're doing also support, and we're doing also on the new project. So had I not had the proper tool to be able to advance faster in the migration process, it wasn't going to be fine for us. So yeah,
so
it's a lifesaver, like I said before.
By the way, here are some resources that we have on our website, where this is on YouTube, and then there is an ebook there as well. Just let's take 2 or 3 questions. So I've got a couple questions here before we go to the second part real quick. Are there plans to have your tool report crystal reports from UNV to UNX? So that question is from John. JF, do you have any answer on that?
Right now, I think the use of universes with the traditional crystal report is fairly limited, but we're always, you know, considering improvements and additions to our product. You know, if John wants to submit a suggestion there, we can certainly look into it.
We have another question from Ravi. Have you converted any UNV type of universes having SAP BW as a source?
No, not in our case. Or it's coming for our case. If the question is addressed to us, we were just converting to Snowflake.
Jeff, you have any comment on that?
No, I mean, the conversion of the universe itself, again, is a fairly straightforward process. And honestly, I have not done that personally, but I don't see it as a problem.
Let's take a last question from Anne-Claire. You say on the slide that can't validate if all documents have been repointed. You know, I think it's possible in the CMC on a particular universe. What can you say about that, JF?
Yes, it's possible, but that brings us back to the same point we raised earlier, is that it's a very manual process. What we're talking about here is you know, a report that we just run, and it lists everywhere, you know, where you're at in your project. The process in the CMC, yes, absolutely, it's possible, but again, kind of slow and fairly manual.
Yeah, and Claire, pretty much everything there, yes, you can do, of course, in the CMC as is, but the problem is it's one by one, where you can do things in bulk. And on the top of that, there are other specific things that cannot be done, but yeah, the power here is really to do things in bulk. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the second part of the webinar. So we're going to talk about your database migration project going from DB2 to Snowflake, Ghassan. So Ghassan, so, tell us about your project. Why are you going to Snowflake? And what are the prereqs of going to Snowflake?
Well, we run on DB2 AIS, which is a version that came after Netezza, and it's costing a lot of money just to maintain the infrastructure on site, and the performance is not what we expected. And we, like everybody, every company, they all heard about Snowflake, or they were approached by Snowflake. And we did a proof of concept, and we saw a major difference in performance-wise, and the ability to provide like sandboxes for the businesses to work on a copy of the data, which is not actually dumping a copy on some other instance, which is just given. There's a way of doing it in Snowflake where you can give some kind of sandbox, but it's actually connecting to real data, and it doesn't impact the data itself, the data in production. So the cost and the performance were the major factors for us to make the jump to Snowflake.
I think, yeah, so one thing as well as important is from what version do you need to be in Business Object to go to Snowflake? Which version of Bobby?
Like I said, we were at 4.2, Business Objects 4.2 SP6. So the first step was to move to a version that is natively supported by SAP and Snowflake. So the minimum version is 4.2 as Service Pack 8. And we are at Fixed Packs 10, which proved to be the most stable within the Service Pack 8 patches.
Ghassan, when we had discussed about Snowflake, and I asked you, hey, what is the biggest value that you get out of Snowflake? So outside of the cost, what's an important factor?
It's the cost for primarily because we're running everybody else. We're running on a tight project, but the other factor is the performance. And then we have ETLs that used to take hours just to have prepare the backend. We use Data Stage as an ETL tool, and for us to prepare the data for the day. So we are most of the times always day -1 as the most fresh copy of the data for our BI. And sometimes where there are processes that we couldn't start before 10 or 11 in the morning because after hours the process was still running in the backend, and the database, some of the tables were still not available. So now we're at 8:30, all the data sets are ready, and then everybody can start working with the BI platform starting 8 a.m. in the morning, and they don't have to wait for 11:30 before the data becomes available, just because the data refresh in the backend didn't happen. So the performance and the cost and the functionalities provided where we have many, we call them here like Videotron, like autoroute is autoroute like a freeway, is you prefer a set of the data for some project, and they can stay connected. So we refresh this backend. We don't actually make a copy of the data. We just pointers to the production data, but they have their own sandbox. Every project has its own sandbox to do their testing during the lifetime of the project. So we're not multiplying the data sets here and there. on infrastructure, on-site infrastructure, where we lack the power and the capacity to hold the volumes of data required. So for us, it's just a matter of pointers to data, and you have to a backup production data, and you have your data for your project to test. So this is from the back end point of view.
You know, just by the way, with 360 now, with 360 eyes, to be very specific, we now support Snowflake as a database as well. So, you know, in terms of the database migration, like Jeff, is this something as manual as you would see, like with a UNV to UNX? What is the process normally on that?
Well, the process in itself theoretically is pretty straightforward. You just point to your database, right? But in reality, in the real world, you have the issue of syntax that changes between different database engines, especially, you know, the specific functions. So again, you're back to you know, manual modifications to your universes. Wherever you encounter this function, you have to replace it with the equivalent function with a different syntax. And the idea here is to be able to at least partially automate that by doing bulk replacements in your universes. So we have a different approach on that, where arguably, you know, not everything is automated, but it can be considerably accelerated by global text replacements.
And Gaston, like, you know, in terms of what something that you're saying is over the years, when we interviewed for this event, you were saying over the years, like, you know, some people left, some people retired, whatever, and overall is you had no visibility of how the universes were organized. Is that correct?
Yeah, because these are very old universes. So yeah, that's the developers, the analysts who build them, who worked on them. Most of them, like you said, either retired or moved to another place, to another company. So we had to. We inherited like most of the the platform, and for us, it just. We're learning with this, discovering stuff as we do the migration. So it's a reality here at Videotron, but again, we're not spending a lot of time trying to understand what the universe does, because it's working. And for this project, stuff we're coming to see while we're doing the migration, and the issues sometimes we get to learn more about the reports, more about the businesses when we find reports that's not working, and this is where you have to go to dig a bit, to debug a bit, and then by debugging you get to know what the universe is, what it's doing, and then what's and what the reports again running against us are doing. So we have limitations, but they're all being addressed in a fair time.
So, and then when we discussed about your project, like we came up with this 7-step methodology that we've adapted for you. And I think one thing specifically that we're going to cover just after is really, of course, you need to do the backup to assess what you have, what you're going to move, to do the testing. But I think one thing that was critical for you there is really the ability to extract in bulk the universe object descriptions, and then to update the you know, the SQL. So Jeff, can you tell us something about this slide here?
Yes, so once you have extracted the information into this format that you see here, so 360 UNV is the name of the tool, it generates this spreadsheet. And in this spreadsheet, among other things, I mean, it has a number of features, but we're focusing here on our database conversion. So there are two columns that are really of interest. Is the object type, which may vary slightly between databases. The classical example is date time versus timestamp, right? I mean, or just date. You can bulk update that here, and also obviously the SQL column. This is where you would find, you know, a proprietary or specific formula for one database that has to be reformatted, restructured for another database. And all you have to do here is do a global, you know, find and replace, just a stupid find and replace in Excel, and then re-import this spreadsheet, and it will update your universe accordingly. So a big time multiplier here.
And Gassan, so today the understandings here in your case, like you need to update, you know, in your process of going to Snowflake, you need to update the universe or the, you know, the statements.
Yeah, there's the syntax change in Snowflake. So the migration of the when you connect the universe to Snowflake backend, and you do your check integrity, you get a list of errors. So what we do is we run the check integrity on the DB2 on the IIS universe. And then we run we connect it to Snowflake, and we run the check integrity, and we try to come at the same level of errors as we had in the DB2. And there's a syntax changes, functions changes, and this is what's taken most of our time, because we need to fix the syntax on the universe before we start testing. So most of the times is spent fixing the SQL syntax in the universe. And once this is done, comes the fun of create an extract here, create an extract there, compare and fix, and fix if there's actually issues. But the time spent is fixing the Snowflake syntax.
And how long does it take you, like per object ballpark, or if you were to do 10 objects, what is manually, what is the time on that?
It's hard to put a time, because it all depends on the complexity of the object syntax, or the queries, or the filters that are in the universe. So this is where we have to have a fair knowledge of SQL commands,
right.
And we rely on dbeaver for comparing, taking the SQL, running in connect to IIS in dbeaver, take the converted SQL, run it in Snowflake via dbeaver, and see if they return at least the same amount of rows, the same results. It's hard to tell, because it depends on the complexity of the SQL syntaxes used. But in our case, a lot of errors come like current space date. It has to be current underscore date. Sometimes the data types, we have to fix the data types from date time to date, because IIS, if you have a date time return a date, you turn a date and you have a date time, it doesn't bother IIS. But in Snowflake, if you're returning date and if the type is date time, it tells you there's an issue with the return object type. So we fix those. But the complex ones are the filters, and sometimes if the developer had some funky whatever idea of creating a dimension, so we go with it. We fix the syntax in every object wherever we can fix
it. And you know, in this type of project as well, it's critical, correct, to test after that your reports to ensure that they're returning the right data.
Yeah. This is why the first step is we bring it to the same level of errors we have in IIS, because for some universes we still have errors because the way the dimension is defined. But it's not actually an error when you use it in the context of the report. But if you just validate it like that, it tells, okay, there's an error, there's an issue. But because it's not part of an SQL to be properly validated. So the plan is bring it to the same level of errors, same errors we have, so we know, okay, these are the same errors. It's because the dimension is not part of SQL where the universe check integrity can validate. And then we run from dev, like we connect our universe to Snowflake on our development environment, and we connect, and the universe is still connected to IIS on the production. We run the extracts on both environments, connecting to the Snowflake production environment and to the IIS production environment, and then we compare the results.
Okay. I think we're almost done. And we won't go into details. We've also done some previous webinars on that, but essentially we got two frameworks. Like one is really a lift and shift, and really there's no transformation here. And here is more like the framework that Ghassan has been using. It's also including all the transformations. So overall, in terms of the key differences with the Wiiisdom 360 suite is essentially we can do things in bulk. So this is really the power of 360 on that. And of course, on the top of it, we can test, like we've got a tool that will do side-by-side comparisons as well. That is going to help you a lot in this process and save you a lot of time onto it. In terms of 360 suite, just to put a couple words for what we do is essentially we've got a suite of solutions for business objects, for Tableau, for Power BI. We also support data services and Calibra as well. But like 360 suites, essentially we got tools that will help to make the management of your business objects more efficient, and we will help you reduce the cost. Yeah, I was looking for a slide that I forgot, but that's fine. Anyway, I will take maybe one more question before we go, because it's, things are pretty, time is really moving. So there is a question from Mike who says, hey, I actually, when I converted my UNV to UNX, I actually selected to go to multi-source UNX. And do you have some, or is there a way to convert that? Jeff?
Well, that's good news. Yes. So the problem with multi-source universes is that unfortunately, once you have made that choice, even if you have a single connection in your universe, you cannot change it back unless you use 360 UNV. We have a solution that does that, and it's an interesting point to raise, because come BI 2025, multi-source universes will no longer be supported, even if you have a single connection in there. So take a look at 360 UNV or talk to us. We can certainly help you with that.
Thank you very much. Well, everyone, be cool, stay cool, and again, thank you very much all for joining. I hope you're able to to get a lot of insights about UNV to UNX, about database migrations, and that you're able to to get some new tips and tricks from Ghassan and from Jeff. Ghassan, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate that. Jeff, also thank you very much for joining, and all have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.